Here we go again, folks. Hope everybody's having a good Friday afternoon. Y'all know what time it is. If you don't know, it is now o'clock at Work on Your Game University. Same time that it always is. Let me pin my comment here so everybody knows what the deal is. Everybody knows what the reason is, the reason for the season, the reason we having this conversation. As y'all are coming in, you can shout yourselves out in the comments section. Just tell me your name and location, and we will get into what we need to get into, have a conversation that we need to have here today. As usual, hope everybody's having a good Friday, had a great week. We're going into the last week of April. We are already in Q2, quarter 2 of 2022. Hopefully, all of you are keeping track of your goals. Hopefully, you came into this year with goals. If you did not, there's no better time than the present to start making them. Hope you've been tracking your goals for the month of April. If you did not, make goals for the month of May, because May is starting in, you got about a week, a little bit over a week to set your goals for the month of May. You need to start setting goals. Successful people in life set goals. I don't care what you heard from whoever. People who succeed in life set goals. They make plans for the future and then they execute those plans. People who do not become successful, you will find one thing they have in common. They got a lot in common, but one thing is that they don't set goals. They do not plan for their future. They just show up and whatever happens, happens. That's a bad strategy. So anybody who's listening to me right now, make sure you have goals. I don't care when you're watching this video. Make sure you have goals. Rashal Legs, what's going on? Jerome from Louisiana. Rashal checking in from Tampa. Shout out to Tampa. All right, and we're going to get started in like 30 seconds. I'm going to give Instagram a little bit more time to letting my followers know that I've started a live video. So we'll see if a couple more stragglers come in here. Then we're going to get started. I'm going to introduce myself, introduce the topic. Then we get into our points. I'm going to go over the points, and I'm going to recap the points. I'm going to take questions and comments, and then it'll be over. That's how it's going to go. So I hope everybody's had a great week, having a good day. Set your goals. That's one thing I can tell you right now, regardless of the topic. Make sure you are setting your goals for the future. Be ready for it. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Dre Baldwin, former 9-year pro athlete. I'm the author of 31 books, including this book right here called Work on Your Game. I created this whole brand philosophy, this business, this framework that is called Work on Your Game. It's all about taking the mental tools, the assets, the strategies, and the tactics that allow you to be successful as an athlete and applying those tools to work and to everyday life. Now, what we're going to talk about here today is the subject of branding yourself. How do you build a brand around you, who you are, and what you're about? And I want y'all all to understand something, that this is not necessarily about anybody who's, what's up, Lou from Ohio. It's not necessarily about you trying to be, you don't have to be an influencer on social media with a whole bunch of followers, or you're trying to build a YouTube channel, or you need to be, that guy or that girl, like you walk through the mall and everybody wants your autograph. That's not what this is about when I say branding you. Branding you is about building a business around yourself as the attractive character, as that main personality that people are connected to. Because here's the reason why this matters, is because the thing that you do, the thing that you sell, and the thing that you offer, to be honest, and everybody needs to accept this, is probably not that great that people are going to stick with you for the next 5 to 10 years just based off of the value and the quality of the thing that you do. The thing that you do is probably not that great. You're a personal trainer, or you write books, or you're a speaker, or you're a, whatever it is you do. Name the thing that you do. You're probably not that great at it that somebody's going to stick with you just because you're so good that you're head and shoulders above everybody else in the world. But let me tell you what people will stick with. Let me tell you why people will stick with you for 10 years is because they buy into who you are as a person. They buy into your brand. They're connected to you. You are the attractive character that magnetizes certain people to you. They will stick with you forever, even though there may be other offers or services that are a lower price. They might be a bright, new, shiny object, but the people who are really connected to who you are as an individual, they're going to stick with you forever. That's why you need to build a brand around yourself, even if your main thing is whatever the product or the service or the offer or the thing is. So building the brand around you, basically what it does is it protects you. It protects you and it protects your business for the future, because those people who are connected to who you are, they're going to stick around no matter what happens, no matter what changes. Even if some people start not liking you, even if some people decide to hate you, even if some people try to cancel you, your hardcore people, they're going to stick around with you. But you have to build this brand around you so that you can actually have hardcore people and you give them a reason to be hardcore about being a fan and connector of you. So since there are a lot of people doing this these days, I want to make sure I'm laying out a framework for how it is done. This is a light level framework on this, but all of this is based around everything I've been talking about in these lives is a primer for my live event that is taking place 2 weeks from now. It is May 5th and 6th. It's called Work on Your Game Live. It is specifically for the thought leaders, entrepreneurs, brand builders, salespeople, speakers, coaches, course creators, book writers, any of you who wants to sell your intellectual property. You want to take your knowledge and you want to package it up and you want to sell it. This event is for you. If I just described you or who you plan on being, then you need to be at this event. You need to get your ticket by going to that link right there, which is workonyourgame.live. Those tickets, again, available until the day before the event. The event is May 5th and 6th. That's 2 weeks from yesterday. So it's a Thursday and a Friday, 2-day event. It's a virtual event, so you don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to travel. You can take the whole event from the comfort of your own home. All you need is internet connection, which you already have. You're watching this. Workonyourgame.live. You're watching this video after that came out, after May 5th and 6th, and the event already happened, obviously. But any of you who miss a day, or you miss an hour, or you miss something, you want to review something, you can get replay access only if you have a ticket to the event. So if you have a ticket, you get access to all the replays. Anything that you missed when it was live, you will get access. But if you don't have a ticket, then, I mean, how would you expect to get access to anything you don't have a ticket? Y'all know how this whole thing works. So go to workonyourgame.live, get your ticket to that event. Now let's get into our points. I got 3 here, then I'm going to recap, then I'm going to take questions and comments. So if I say anything you have a question or a comment about, go ahead and post it in the comments here, and I'll address everything at the end. So number 1, we are talking about building a brand around yourself. Number 1 thing that you must do to build a brand around yourself is you must be living out your message. Whatever your brand is about, whatever your business is about, whatever you want people to know that you're about, whatever you're going to be offering to people, telling them to do, you got to make sure you are living it yourself. This is the most important thing you can do for your brand. You got to be living out your message. I talked about this in episode 1239 of my podcast, which is subject was what people crave from brands these days. Any brand. I don't care if it's a brand based around a person. It can be based around a character or a thought, like, Geico with the lizard, or McDonald's with Ronald McDonald. It doesn't have to be an individual, but any brand. Number 1 thing people want these days is authenticity. It's the most important thing you can do for your brand is be real and be honest and clear about who you are, what you're about, and what you're bringing to the table. Even if you're bringing something to the table that people disagree with, for every person who disagrees, there's a bunch of people who agree. But you got to be clear as to what you're about, and you got to live it. And you got to be out there and be open about it and be unapologetic about it. People want to see that whatever it is that you're talking about, whatever you're selling or whatever you're promoting, you are really about it. This sounds like a simple enough concept, right? That whatever you're going to sell, you probably should be living it. But this is the first point, because there are so many people out there who are not doing this. People who want to be about something, but they're not actually living the thing that they're talking about. They are not exemplifying the very thing that they're trying to sell to other people. So you got to make sure whatever your brand, whatever you want your brand to be about, you got to be living it. Or you could reverse engineer this and do it the opposite way. What are you already living? What are you already doing? And then you can try to find a brand message that matches the way that you're already living, who you already are. And that might be easier for a lot of people, because there's many people out here who want to make a brand about X. But then when you look at them and what they're talking about, I'm looking at them like, well, look, the way that you live and the way that you are as a person, you do not exemplify what you want your brand to represent. So it's not going to connect. It's going to be this disconnect between what you're saying and selling and who you actually are. Then when that disconnect exists, people might not be able to explain that to you the way that I just did. They won't be able to articulate it, but they'll notice that disconnect, and it's going to cause them to stay away from you because you are not living out what you're talking about. So you want to make sure either you live out whatever you want to talk about, or just talk about the way you're already living. All right, this is a simpler way to do it. A good example of this is you look at, well, let's say somewhat of a good example of this. You look at the rappers who are out there these days. What do a lot of rappers rap about? A lot of rappers rap about some kind of street life, right? They rap about girls, dating girls. They rap about going to strip clubs. They rap about being in the streets, doing illegal things. They rap about being a gangster or a tough guy and doing all these things that probably get you incarcerated. But if that's the way that they really live, if that's their real life, here's the thing. Whether you agree with it or disagree with it is not the point. The thing is, if you believe them, do you believe that they're telling the truth? This is the way that these guys really live. If somebody's really in the streets, even though you wouldn't be in the streets, but you believe that they actually are in the streets and they're rapping about it, that's the reason why it connects. Why did 50 Cent, you remember when 50 Cent blew up like 20 years ago? Why did he blow up? Because the main reason that he blew up is not because we could be out there in the streets with him and we could verify the stuff that he was talking about. The reason he blew up is because he got shot 9 times. You can't fake getting shot 9 times and being in the hospital and damn near dying. When that happened and he survived it to talk about it, now when he came out talking about he was a gangster and he was in the streets, nobody could deny that story because we all knew the facts of what had happened to him and we had to believe it. It was authentic. The reason that he blew up is because of the authenticity behind what he was saying. Now, I'm not telling you need to go out in the streets and get shot 9 times because you probably won't live. Most people who get shot 1 time don't live to talk about it, but he lived to talk about it. And that authenticity is the thing that allowed him to sell. That's the reason why he took off. And anyone else, you look at someone like Kanye. Did y'all see that on Netflix? Was it on Netflix? I think it was Netflix. That it was like a 3-part series about Kanye West. And Kanye was kind of the opposite of 50 Cent. He wasn't in the streets. He wasn't a gangster or hustler or anything like that. He was rapping about being a guy who was in the clothes and in the fashion. He was just trying to get on as a rapper, even though he first got in the door as a producer. Nobody was taking him seriously as a rapper, and he had to kind of struggle to get known and get people to pay attention to him, but then he was able to make it happen. And because he had to kind of go off his own energy, he had all this arrogance or confidence that people started to call arrogance, and that became his brand. Isn't that Kanye's brand to this very day? I would think we all can agree. Yes, it is. That's the authenticity. That's what people buy into. People want to know that whoever you are, whatever you are, it just has to be real. And again, the whole world does not have to agree with it. They just have to believe it. There's a difference between agreeing with somebody and believing them. So I can tell you something that you 100% disagree with. You don't see things the same way I do. But at the same time, you can say, I know that he actually believes it. So any of you watch ESPN or Fox now, remember when Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless used to do First Take together? That was the best combination. It was those two. And Skip Bayless, every episode, he just found a reason to say some trash. To trash LeBron James. That's all he did. Skip Bayless is famous to this very day. All he did was trash LeBron. That was his whole shtick, is trashing LeBron James. And he built his whole brand off of doing it. And the thing is, once I heard Stephen A. Smith speak. He came to South Florida once, years back. And somebody asked him about Skip Bayless. And Stephen A. said, well, here's the thing y'all got to understand about Skip Bayless is that a lot of people think that he just gets on TV and he's like acting and pretending to hate on LeBron. But no, the stuff that he says about LeBron, he actually believes it. He actually believes that he is right. And all the stuff that he says when he's trashing all these athletes from his TV show, and these athletes get mad and their fans get mad at Skip for saying the stuff that he's saying, but he actually believes it. And the reason Skip Bayless is such a high-paid talking head on TV these days is not because his takes are so perfectly eloquent, is because people believe that he actually believes the stuff that he's saying, even though a lot of people tuned in to watch his show. Why? Just to disagree with him. All LeBron's fans, LeBron got a lot of fans, right? Every time LeBron does something, they go to the Skip Bayless show to hear Skip Bayless find a negative thing to say about it just so they can be mad at Skip Bayless. So they hate watch Skip Bayless. That works. All right. Again, people do not have to agree with you. They just have to believe you. There's a difference between the two. And people believe what's going on. Brendan, how you doing, man? When people believe you, you have a brand. Again, they don't even have to like you. They don't have to buy into you. All right. Our former president, Donald Trump, did everybody agree with him? No. But they believed him. Did you believe that the stuff that he was saying, he actually believed it? I think everybody believed it. I don't think anybody ever thought he was lying. I think he was pretty authentic in the way he put himself out there. And, well, look, he won an election. He won one, he lost one, depending on how you feel about it. But he has a brand. And whether you agree or disagree, that man got fans. The reason he has fans is because they believe him. So number one thing you got to do is figure out how are you living? What are you about? What is your brand message? What are you living out? And do people actually believe it? Do you believe it? If you look at my brand is called Work on Your Game. And Work on Your Game can encapsulate all the stuff that I do. Am I working on my game on a consistent basis? You look at my story, you look at my posts, the things that I write about. my background, the places that I come from. As an athlete, I had to kind of hustle my way into the game. I barely played high school. I had to walk on and play in college. I had to hustle my way into the pros. I had to work on my game on the court and off the court in order to make that happen. Then getting into the business world, I didn't know anybody. I didn't really have any connections. I didn't have any formal training for entrepreneurship. Even though I got a business degree from Penn State University, they didn't teach me anything about entrepreneurship. I had to work on my game and hustle my way into it, and slowly over the years build up what I was doing and build up my brand. And anybody who's been watching me since the basketball days can look at my stuff now and see the growth and the forward movement of what I'm doing, because I'm consistently working on my game, and I'm also consistently giving other people the game. How do you get better at your game? And what am I doing right now? I'm telling you a way that you can improve your game. This is all that I do. So everything that I talk about and whatever I'm trying to sell is all under the umbrella of work on your game. I'm always giving people a way for you to improve your game, whether it's your mindset game, your business game, your strategy game, your accountability game, your discipline game, whatever it is, I'm giving you a way to improve yourself. And I'm always thinking like that. I'm always looking for ways to improve myself, working on myself. So naturally, what am I going to talk about? I'm talking about the things that I'm doing. How can you improve yourself? So my brand and my life match up. And that's why, again, whether you agree with it or not is not the question, but do you believe it? Do you believe I'm telling you about something that I don't do? I'm not telling you anything that I don't do. I don't suggest you do anything that I'm not doing. So when I say live your message, I got work on your game. You see, how many places can you see work on your game just on the screen right now while you're listening to me talk? 1, you see those books right there. 2, you see that hat right there. 3, you see the tattoo right here. 4, here's another one. 5, you see the link right there, workonyourgame.live. That's 6 places you can see work on your game just on this little phone screen right here. And I didn't do that on purpose. I didn't plan it like that. The fact is, I live out my message. So this is the same thing that y'all need to be doing. So this sounds simple, but a lot of people do not do it. I heard Russell Brunson, who's a ClickFunnels guy, he talks about eating your own dog food is the same thing. So that's the way that he says it. This is the way that I'm saying it. Eating your own dog food means if you're going to sell, like ClickFunnels is software for building basically sales funnels, or some of you call them websites, web pages, whatever. But it's a place to sell stuff on the internet. And here's the thing. Russell Brunson and the ClickFunnels guys, when they send you to a web page to buy something, they're using their own software. It wouldn't make any sense if they were selling ClickFunnels software, but every web page that they made was on WordPress or Infusionsoft or Lead Pages, or they did it on Facebook. They wouldn't make any sense. Like, dude, how you going to sell me software, but you're not even using your own software? Doesn't make any sense, right? So if whatever you're selling, and again, you could be selling a physical thing, you could be selling web access like an application, you could be selling a mindset or an ethos or a framework. Like what I'm doing is not tangible, but you can make it into tangible things. Whatever it is that you're selling, you must be doing and using. Don't sell anything that you're not doing. Think about somebody like, I'll give you another example. It doesn't even have to be an entrepreneur like I'm talking about here. Think about somebody like Floyd Mayweather. All right, so Floyd Mayweather is a boxer. He's pretty much retired these days, but what's the name of his crew? He calls it the money team, right? That's his whole thing, the money team. Now, whenever you see Floyd, I don't even follow Floyd on social, but I can bet what the kind of stuff that he posts on social media when he was boxing, what kind of stuff will he show you? Anytime you watch those little HBO documentaries leading up to his fights, what will Floyd show you? What did Floyd put on display all the time anytime you saw Floyd Mayweather? It was basically 2 things he showed you. He only had 2 things he did all the time. And again, I don't even follow Floyd like that, but it was 2 things. Anytime I saw Floyd, there's only 2 things you were going to see every single time. 1, he was in the ring training, working on his boxing game. And 2, he was showing off his lifestyle. He was showing you his cars, his houses, the vacations that he went on, all the material things that he had, and just showing you all the money he got. And his whole brand is called the Money Team. So again, I'm not telling you need to agree with Floyd, but do you believe him? Do you believe that what he was talking about was the way he was living? And I believe that's the way he was living. And always training say he showed training, the money, and he showed women. That was another thing. And the women, I guess, in his world, depending on the kind of women you're dealing with, the women came with the money. And that was he was living his message, is the point that I'm making. So whatever your message is going to be, you got to live it. Any of you who's old enough may remember back in the 90s, when we used to get all of our media through TV before the phones. There used to be this commercial that came on all the time. It was an infomercial on TV for this company called the Hair Club for Men. And the Hair Club for Men was exactly what it sounds like. It was a bunch of bald mostly white guys. There was some black guys in the commercials, mostly bald white guys who would tell you how they joined this club called the Hair Club for Men. It was basically a subscription product, and using this product made their hair grow back. That was the whole thing. And there'll be all these infomercials and commercials for selling Hair Club for Men. Those commercials ran for decades. And just as a note, the reason those commercials ran for decades is because they were making money. So you might laugh at the Hair Club for Men, but those people were making money. They were making millions of dollars a year. That's why you kept seeing the commercials all the time. And at the end of every commercial, right, it would be this white dude. He'd be talking, and he would have a head full of hair. He's talking about the Hair Club for Men, and then there'd be a quick little spiel. Here's how it works. You call this number. We're going to send you a free product, and then you sign up for the membership. Then he would do all the selling on the back end. And at the end of the commercial, this guy who was talking, he would say, I'm not only the president, I'm also a client. And right next to it, it would show you like a before and after picture. So the after was him standing there with a head full of hair. But the before picture was what? It would be a picture of him with no hair on his head. It was like when he was losing all his hair, but then you would see him in the commercial, he had a head full of hair. So what is he showing you? He's showing you that not only am I going to sell you this product, I want you to understand I use the same product that I'm selling. So this is what Russell talks about, eating your own dog food. So whatever you're going to sell, if you're going to build a brand, you better be living out what you're talking about. And here's something that y'all need to understand. The last thing I'm going to say on this first point is that people can tell this within like 5 minutes. So whatever it is you're going to say you're about, people can tell, are you living this message within 5 minutes of listening to you, looking at you, scrolling through your feed, looking at your website, reading your blog, whatever it is you're doing, watching your YouTube video. They can tell, all right, I'm saying work on your game. Are you listening to me talk for 5 minutes? Or do I sound like I live out that message? Or just look at me. Do I look like I live out that message? I can't be talking about work on your game. I look like I ain't been in the gym in 3 years. I look like I don't even know what I'm talking about. I don't look like I'm really working on improving myself. I can't be walking around telling people to work on their game because there's an incongruency between what I'm saying and what I'm doing, or at least what it looks like that I'm doing. And even though sometimes looks can be deceiving, understand when you're building a brand, your looks better not be deceiving, or your looks better be obvious. Okay? So whatever it is that you tell people you're about, it should be clear that's what you're about. I should be able to look at you and look at your presentation and your materials and say, all right, yeah, that guy's, he's about it. Somebody says the money team, you can't say you're running the money team and pull up in a Honda Accord. This is just the deal. I ain't knocking nobody who drives a Honda Accord, but if you say you're the money team, then you better pull up in something that looks like money. All right, you say you're the money team, and no, you're in a studio apartment, that don't make no sense. Now, you should probably have a big house because you're calling yourself the money team. Does Floyd, again, does he represent his message? So this is the one thing that I want y'all to take from that. Do you represent what you're talking about? Again, people don't have to agree. Do they believe it? Those are two different things. Point number 2. We are talking here how to brand yourself. The 3 things that you need to be doing. Number 2, and this kind of connects to point number 1, is you need to craft a signature subject, topic, or area of focus that you can own. Something that when you say it or anybody else says it, they all know that it is yours. That if that phrase gets mentioned, it's going to come back to you. Anybody who's been in your world or knows anything about what you're doing, they're going to think of you when they hear that thing. That's a signature message. To give you an example, when I say just do it, what company am I talking about? All right, everybody knows what company I'm talking about. That's a signature topic. It's a signature area of focus. You need something that you own that everybody knows what you're talking about. If I say something like, you think of something like 10X, the 10X rule, many of you might think of, especially if you're on the internet, you'll think of somebody like Grant Cardone because he has a book called The 10X Rule. His company is called Cardone, but they got 10X, right? And when he does his events, he got everybody doing the 10X thing. It's 10X this, 10X that, the 10X conference, 10X everything. And he owns that. And again, it's not about you agreeing or disagreeing. He owns it and everybody knows about it. If you think of someone like John Lee Dumas, he has a podcast called Entrepreneurs on Fire. I was on his show some time back. And his whole thing is not about entrepreneurs, because entrepreneur is a generic term. His thing is all about learning and focus. He owns that. He has several books on learning and focus, courses on it. How did I get good enough to really be a sharp learner and really get focused and get a lot of stuff done on a day-to-day basis? If you know who he is, then you know about that. Someone like a female, Brene Brown. Brene has written several books. She probably got like 8, 9 books, something like that. She got a Netflix specials and all this stuff. What does Brene Brown own? Her area of expertise is Daring and owning your imperfections. Her whole thing is about owning your imperfections. Whatever is not perfect about you, being all right with it. And that's is a unique thing, because a lot of us these days, especially when it comes to building a brand, especially on the internet, we're all trying to look perfect, right? We're all trying to look like we got it all together and that we're all great and we're all on point. But everybody got some stuff going on in their lives. Brene Brown took that and she jumped all in on it and built a whole brand and a whole business around owning it and being okay with it and doing it from like a clinical perspective. Like, she does all this research and all this stuff that she cites when she writes her books, and she's written some good stuff. It's not necessarily my cup of tea, but I've read a couple of her books, and this is actually good stuff. I'm like, this is good for someone who's really into this stuff. They will go deep on her. A lot of her audience is women, but she got a lot of men in her audience as well. But she owns that topic. You think of somebody like me, work on your game. So since I say work on your game, guess what I got to be doing on a consistent basis? Working on my game. Doesn't mean I always got to be in the gym or writing a book or doing any one particular thing, but I need to be always improving, getting better, trying to step my game up. Why? Because I built my brand around it. So if I stop doing it, then my message in my life become incongruent, and now I don't have a brand anymore because I'm not living what I'm talking about. Unless I create a whole different brand. But you see all this stuff around me, I ain't creating no different brand. I'm stuck with this one for the rest of my life. So you got to decide, what is something that you can own? You need a phrase, a statement, something that you represent, something that you live, that when somebody brings it up, your name comes up. So if you go on Google right now, you Google work on your game, you're going to see me. So I'm going to Google it right now so I can see for myself. So I make sure I'm not lying to y'all. I'm going to look up work on your game, and we're going to see what comes up on Google. So I'm Googling work on your game. First thing I see is, they got my work on your game podcast and work on your game, the book. Then they got my website, work on your game. Then I come up, then a bunch of my books again, then Amazon, then some YouTube videos, more YouTube, work on your game website, work on your game podcast again, my book again, LinkedIn, Audible. So as you can see, like I said, whatever it is you're going to be talking about, you need to own it so that if that comes up, if somebody even tries to use it, your name pops up. And this ain't even about going to the USPTO and getting a trademark and a patent. Yeah, you can do that, and that's fine and protect it. And I own work on your game, by the way, so don't try to use it because I will sue your ass. But the whole point is owning it in the minds of the audience. That's the more important ownership. It's not the documentation and taking people to court. It's about owning it in the minds of the audience, because if you own it in the minds of the audience, nobody else could use it. Because as soon as they say it, they're going to say, oh, ain't that somebody else's? Ain't that his? Isn't that her? Isn't that what they're about? So you want to figure out what that is going to be for you. So you need to create a process. Here's the next step of that. Creating a process around what you do that you can teach and that you can explain. So work on your game. There's a whole process to working on your game. I talk about how work on your game came to exist in this book. And then I tell you the whole process, how to do it, how you execute work on your game in this book right here. So this is the next thing. Write a book about it. Whatever you're going to talk about, write a book. If you're a thought leader and you created something that sticks in people's minds that they're going to own and they can remember, you need to write it in a book. Why? Because books last forever. YouTube videos come and go. This live stream is going to come and go. 3 weeks from now, this live stream will be old, right, to most of y'all. A piece of content, an Instagram post that comes and goes. A podcast episode comes and goes. Books are forever. So you need to write a book around whatever it is that you own, especially you thought leaders. So, and then make a system out of what you do so that it's not just a thing that you say, but there's a process that people can follow, because you can sell a process. You can't sell a phrase. You can sell a process. You need to make a process out of what you do. Now, Work on Your Game Live, I will be teaching you the Work on Your Game process for your business, and I'll be teaching you how to make a process for your own business. So if you haven't gotten your ticket yet, there's the link. Workonyourgame.live is the link in my bio. Make sure you get a ticket to the event. Number 3 thing, and I'm going to take questions at the end of this. Number 3 thing you must do to build a brand around yourself is you must remember, I talked about this episode 1515 in my podcast, you are a marketer. You are not just a brand. You are not just a coach or a speaker or an author or a course creator or a workshop host or a fill in the blank, whatever you want to call yourself, a personal trainer, an eyelash person, a hairdresser. You are not just that. You are a marketer. You are in the business of marketing what you do. You're not in the business of doing what you do. You're in the business of marketing what you do. Why? Because nobody gets paid just for doing the thing. You get paid for selling the thing. So for example, These books right here that I'm showing you, I wrote these books, and it was fun to write the books. Sometimes excruciating to write the books, but here's the thing about these books. When I got done writing this book, the Work on Your Game System Manual, guess how much money I received for writing this book? Can anybody guess? Somebody post in the comments, how much money did I get for writing that book? I'm going to wait for some of y'all to give me some comments. How much money, here's the question, put it in the comments, how much money did I receive for writing this book? Anybody answer this question? Anybody tell me how much I got for writing the book? I'm waiting for somebody to tell me. Rashad Legg said $100,000. Always training, so I'm not a businessman, I'm a business. Anybody else got a guess? That's the only guess I've seen so far. I'm waiting for somebody to tell me how much money I got for writing this book right here, the Work on Your Game System Manual. And we're on the third point here today. The topic is building a brand around you. All right, y'all taking too long with the comments, but here's the answer to the question. Answer is 0. Not 100,000. 100,000 minus 100,000. The answer is 0. Yes, so always training says 0 process. You get $0 for writing a book. Now, the caveat is if you work with a publisher, I did this book with a traditional publisher, yeah, you might get an advance, but that's not actual, that doesn't count. What I'm saying here is your business is in selling the thing. The money, all the money that gets made from this book only happens when I sell the book to somebody, not just because I wrote the book. If you're a personal trainer, you do a personal training session, you get paid, you don't get paid for the session, you get paid for selling the session to somebody. Usually they pay you before you do the session, right? Or at least they agree to pay you before you do the session. Then maybe you might get the money afterwards. That's the whole point. The point is you're in the business of selling the thing that you do. So no matter what your brand is, what your signature topic is going to be, what you're talking about, how you're living, you must sell it to somebody. How are people going to know that you're doing it? You could be the best trainer in the world, like I talked about yesterday. People don't know about it, then it doesn't matter, right? So how are people going to know that you're doing the thing? Being good at it is one thing. People knowing that you're good is another thing. And people paying for how good you are is the third thing. There's levels to this. Everybody heard what I just said. Make sure you take note of that one. We're going to go deep into that at Work on Your Game Live. And this is all part of step 2 of the Work on Your Game process, is showing your game. There's building the game, showing the game, getting paid for the game. There's 3 steps there. I got a lot of different frameworks here, so if you have Work on Your Game Live, I'll explain all of it. You'll know how all of this works. Sometimes I just throw these out while I'm talking here on these lives. So you can't be the only person who knows that you're good. Your audience and the people who need what you do, they need to know that you're good, because that's when you get paid. You don't get paid if you know you're good and nobody else in the world knows, or you think you're good but you can't prove it. So you got to flip your mentality from being a creator to being a salesperson. How do you get people to actually want to pay for what you're offering? So your job is to get the word out about what you do. So Pierre Cardin, who is a clothing icon, he died maybe about a year or two ago. And he said, there's a phrase that was attributed to him. He said, "I was born an artiste, but I am a businessman." Same thing Jay-Z said in the song, right? I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. The whole point is he understood the concept of, look, it's not just about me being a great artist and doing business. I am a business. My whole thing is about business. And you know, Jay-Z's never made any he's never tried to apologize for that. That his whole thing is all about the business. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs would benefit from that greatly if they can get their mindsets around being a business person, not just being an artist. So all that said, let me recap these points. If anyone has a question, go ahead and post it in the comment section. I'm actually attending an event today, but it was on a break, so that's why I'm doing this live. So I'm going to take questions. If anybody got one, go ahead and post it right here, and I'm going to recap these points, and then we'll wrap this up. So 3 things about building a brand around yourself. Number 1, be living your message every single day. Number 2, you must have a signature topic or idea that you own so that everybody knows it is yours and they can't confuse with anybody else. And number 3, you're in a marketing business. You must think about selling and getting exchanges for the things you do, not just doing the things that you do. All 3 that you need here. So let me see if we got any comments. I don't think I saw any questions while I was talking, but I might have missed one. Mr. Get Your Game Right from Louisville, what's going on? How are you? Jerome T003, what up? Yes, you got to walk it like you talk it. You got it right. See, you said, thanks. You just gave me an idea for a motto for my brand. All right, Rashad, that's what's up. Get the name, get the word out there. Always training Yes, you got the Jay-Z comment right. All right, I don't see any other questions, so I'll wait like 30 seconds, see if anybody got a question. I'll answer it, and then we'll wrap this one up. It's Friday. I think y'all are tired. It's Friday. But my live event, Work on Your Game Live, is May 5th and 6th. You get your tickets by going to that link right there. There's also the link in my Instagram bio. It's a 2-day event. Day 1 is for mindset and strategy. Day 2 is application and implementation. This event is strictly for one type of person, the entrepreneur who is in the thought leadership world selling your intellectual property. That means coaching, speaking, writing books, courses, workshops, anything along those lines where you're selling your knowledge, which we call intellectual property. If you are in that space or you want to be in that space, you need to be in the room virtually at Work on Your Game Live. It's a virtual event. No travel, no Airbnbs, no hotels, no flights. There's no mask on the planes anymore, but you still don't need to get on the plane. You can get on the plane if you want, but that is workonyourgame.live. It will be online no matter where you are. Workonyourgame.live is where you get your ticket. It's a 2-day event. You get access to all the replays. Of course, you get full access to me. You will bring all your questions. I will answer all your questions. A lot of it I'll answer in the material. But any questions you have, of course, I will answer all your questions. You will not leave with any questions unanswered. That is workonyourgame.live. Link is in the bio and right there. Question is tips on narrowing down your niche if multi-talented. Well, the first question then, hey, what's going on, Andrea? Rashal, is who do you want to work with? That's the first question. Who do you want to help? Because a lot of people have more than one skill, or at least they believe they do. So the question to narrow down your niche is who do you want to help? Because you probably can't serve everybody at the same level. And you definitely can if you're trying to serve more than one person at a time. So who do you actually want to work with is the key question. Keith says, could you direct me in the right direction with someone trying to create an invention? Are you the person creating the invention, Keith? Or are you trying to find somebody who's trying to create an invention? And where do you want to go? That's the question, because I wouldn't know where to direct you. Why would you need to be directed somewhere? What's stopping you from just creating it? What do you need? So that question needs a little bit more context for me to be able to answer it. I don't know what that means here. Someone trying to create an invention. So either you're creating it or you're not. So you got to give me a little bit more. So for those who came in the middle here, again, this is a primer for my live event, which is Work on Your Game Live, taking place May 5th and 6th. Virtual event. So you are the person you don't know how to go about what, Keith? What are you're trying to create something, but you don't know how to create it? Then I don't know. That would lead me to thinking, are you actually an inventor if you don't know how to create something? Or who's the inventor? Who's going to create it? If it's not you, then what are you looking for? Your question is leading to more questions than answers. So you got to give me a little bit more context, but also being brief at the same time. So I don't know what you mean here. You might want to text me. Let me put my text number in here for everybody who wants to. If you want to get my daily motivation text, you will text me at the following number. It is 305-384-6894. Every day when I send out my daily motivation, you want to receive it, just text me at that number. I just posted it in the comments. So anybody wants to get my daily motivation, it's free of charge every single day. All you got to do is text me, and you'll be getting that daily motivation. And you'll be able to respond to any one of those texts. You can ask me a question, share a challenge, and I will address it or direct you to where you can get more information that I probably already created. So whether it be podcast, video, book, something like that. Rashal says, hope the event goes well. Appreciate you. All right, so CL Keith, you can send me a DM or a text and give me a little bit more context of what you're asking for, and I'll be able to hopefully address that for you, but I'm not sure what you're asking right now. Andrea, I appreciate you getting that daily motivation. All right, everybody, I'm going to go back to my event, and I think they have restarted. Let me see. Yeah, they restarted, so let me get back to my event. Y'all have a good Friday afternoon. Workonyourgame.live. Get your ticket to my event. I'll see y'all there. Have a good Friday. Work on your game. We out.